Yo, quick video. I want to talk about something different today. Let me check the audio real quick. Make sure we're not playing. All right, cool. So I noticed a pattern with my videos is that sometimes they seem to be, at least to me, boring. Like, bruh, all you talk about is just deep stuff. Like, come on, like talk about something else. Talk about something else. So I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try talking about something that's not as consequential, although I'm sure you may take away something that is, of some value or so. Do let me know if there's an issue with the connection. I watched back last night's video and I noticed, some lagging and whatnot. Other than that, it was a pretty good presentation. It did cut off at the end, so I'm gonna keep it short. But yeah, I actually like the way that video turned out in terms of quality. Dope looking video. Anyway, I want to talk about my journey from working at McDonald's, transitioning to Papa John's, working Papa John's and Olive Garden together, moving on to Walmart. From there, going to working for myself, playing piano, playing organ, full time, playing music. And then from there, moving on to driving the school bus. And then, of course, we'll continue on to my actual position. But a lot of people ask me the question, what were you doing that only required you to work 3 hours a day? And I was a school bus driver. A lot of people, sleep on driving school bus. It's a hidden gem. A lot of people just don't know about it. I actually enjoyed that job a lot. Driving school bus was dope. And honestly, I am getting upset with the ISO that is not auto balancing. Anyway, yeah, I used to drive school bus. I learned a lot of things about children, about the human mind driving school bus. A lot of people are afraid of kids. They're afraid of how to balance driving a vehicle that large and then dealing with the behavior issues of children. It's honestly not that difficult. I applied universal principles unconsciously, mind you, because I wasn't that deep back then. Like I was showing up for a check, and I liked the hours. I was like, this is hella flexible. You show up, work an hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half at night, you're done. It was a good gig. Then I transitioned to Nashville, driving for a company that I would go back to in a heartbeat. I love that job. It was a transportation company essentially, but it contained school bus, it contained charter, trolley, what have you. It was a transportation company. All you needed was a CDL, and you can drive all the different sections of the company. I enjoyed that job. Worked maybe 5 hours a day, mainly because of traffic. But beyond that, I enjoyed the job of just simply driving around. And then, of course, from there, joined the Air Force. And a lot of people asked, I noticed a couple comments, how do you join the Space Force? To my knowledge, I do not know. I do not know. Now, here's what I do know. I am not Space Force. I work for the Space Force. I'm still Air Force. The way you should view the Space Force is something comparable to what the Marines are to the Navy. The Space Force is birthed, for lack of a better word. I hate that word. From the Air Force, the little brother, little sister of the more established branch. So there's that. There's no pipeline directly into the Space Force unless you have an AFSC. Again, this is my knowledge. This is what I've observed, what I've noticed. That if you have an AFSC that is somewhat falls under space, if you will, then of course, you may or may not be drafted into that section or, that subsidiary of the Air Force. So yes, I work for the Space Force, but I'm in the Air Force. It's a lot more common than you think. A lot of people have like when you log into the computer, a lot of people just notice USSF will pop up. You didn't initiate anything. I didn't initiate anything personally. I just happened to go to a base that is space related. So there's that. But yeah, I've had an interesting journey of progressing in my jobs and just trying to get a better job, a better job, a better job. A lot of people, and the subject of college education comes up heavily when you think about job progression, because if you think about why the majority of people go to college, it's to get a job, it's to get a career, get a degree that you can directly translate into a nice paying job. Well, I took a poll a while back on my Instagram, and of course, it's not a huge amount of people. It's like at the time it was maybe around 15 to 1,700 people following me on Instagram, and even less than that responded. So the poll was, how many people have a college education, have a degree, and then how many people are actually using it currently in the field they work in. It was horrible to see that most people are not even working in the career field or even closely related career field of the degree that they spent thousands of dollars on. They're now in debt. A lot of people are sitting there proud of their alma mater and screaming, "Ooh, I graduated from here. I'm college educated," but you don't even work nowhere near what you spent all this money for. Onion does a dope skit of how this guy went to Miami, the University of Miami, and all he walked away with was debt and a piece of paper. What's the point? So, of course, there are exceptions. There are people that walk away with, very, prestigious, backgrounds. They go to an Ivy League, you perform properly, you graduate, you walk away with something that other people want. But in most cases, most people have a piece of paper that someone else has, and inevitably it ends up valueless because of the saturation. If everyone has a degree, the same degree, a similar degree, it becomes value. It's almost as if nobody went to college. A lot of people just don't realize that. So with that in mind, and then of course my hatred of school, my hatred of just the actual, dare I say, indoctrination. I hate school. I love learning. Hate school. They're not the same. So I decided I'm not going to college. I tried to go to college, couldn't afford it. Out of state fees, what have you. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, try to go to college. This is around 2011. I left New York, upstate New York. Why is my throat scratchy? It's not COVID. Left upstate New York, came down to Tennessee, tried to go to college down there, fell through. Well, men have to work. So got a job. And we progressed from there. We started McDonald's around the corner, walking to work every day. And we started there. We worked 8-hour shifts, 30-minute breaks. It was not fun, but it was necessary. I had to do it. So from there, we finally got a car, got my Ford Ranger, 1996. And we progressed. We got a new job from there. I'm working at Papa John's in Olive Garden. Met a lot of people there. I met people there that actually are in the Air Force now. We're both in the Air Force, but we worked at Olive Garden at the same time. It's crazy, small world, small Air Force. But yeah, we just progressed. Every single year, pretty much, I was getting a better job. And my idea of a better job is a job that has less hours with just about the same or more pay. That's how I define a good job. A quality job, a quality position is something, a job where it doesn't require 40 plus hours to get basic amount of pay. If I'm able to work 3 hours and get paid for 40, that's a great deal to me. Whereas you have some people, I've always thought about being a lawyer, and a lot of people asked, why I said in my last stream that I would love to be a divorce attorney, only because of the amount of divorces. You can see how the divorce, numbers have just shot through the roof. Of course, who's benefiting from that? The divorce attorneys, who have no horse in the race, but they understand you need my services to get what you want. As long as I help you get what you want, I'm going to be billing you the entire time. Between the husband and wife, I can bill both sides. I don't care who pays me. I don't care who comes out with what. If you guys' relationship fails or where the children go, I would assume there's some level of decency in the attorney's mind, but at the end of the day, they get a check. You get a check. So yeah, I've always thought about being an attorney. I love a quality debate and argument, what have you. But it's when you think about the amount of work that actually goes on behind the scenes, the stuff that you don't see on the TV shows, the research, the digging through books. I don't want that. No, I want the suit, the flashiness, the wit. You feel me? So yeah, there's that. My ambitions have been all over the place in terms of over the years of growing up. At one time, I wanted to be a professional fisherman. Believe that, my dream car was a truck, F450. I wanted a boat, a nitro, Mercury outboards, all that. Evinrude, I was spending all my money on on like the catalogs and the poles and the reels and the lures and all that. Like I was deeply entrenched. I grew out of it. It's been an interesting journey in terms of the job I do today versus the job that, I did as a necessity. I'm proud of the growth. I am proud of the growth that has transpired. But yeah, school bus driver, just a couple things that a lot of people don't know. Children, and when I say children, I mean from kindergarten through seniors, because I drove all of them. It's amazing in hindsight, of course, because at the time I was still operating from some principle. I was a very logical thinker. I've always somewhat, tended towards, the rational side of thinking versus the emotional. Although both are required at certain times. I'm not saying one is the only answer. Like a lot of people would argue that you need to be strictly logical, strictly rational, and use no emotion. And then some people say, well, that's an emotional issue. You need to address it with how you feel and others' feelings. And I'm saying you need both. Some more, certain situations, you'll need more rationality, more logic. And in some situations, you'll need more, humanity, more feelings. That being said, I believe it was the second day driving school bus. And of course, the children would begin to combat each other, as I'm driving down the road. Wild. I've never felt the strength of two little girls until they are angry, trying to pull each other's hair out. Craziness. But it taught me a lot in terms of how do I get these children? And this question actually crossed my mind, and is an interesting solution I came up with. How do I get these children to behave only while I'm driving? I don't care about what they do when they get off the bus, where they go after all that. I want to know how to handle these children while the bus is moving, while I can't just hop out of my seat and direct and give energy to the atmosphere. How do I get them to behave? A couple things. So with the younger kids, I noticed how loneliness impacts children. Loneliness. If you put a child in the seat by themselves, give them no one to talk to, no one across the aisle, no one behind them, no one near them, what do? They sit down and mind their business. They look out the window. The reverse is true for seniors. When you have someone your same size, football team, senior, 18 years old, full of testosterone, they've been in school all day, they pissed off, they want to do what they want to do. Why would they listen to the dude they play basketball with it? Once school's out on the weekends or whatever. Why do they listen to me? What do I have to leverage my position? Well, it's the opposite is true. Put them in a seat with a lot of people. It came to a point where you just learn that I can only do so much talking before my actions need to speak for me. Of course, it's a universal principle that applies to multiple places in life where you'll realize I can't just keep talking, trying to get my point across, trying to get people to respond properly. I need actions to go with it. I need actions. I remember one gentleman, I knew him quite well outside of work, but it's something different when you're in a certain position and you have certain duties that are required. That your safety is my main priority when I'm driving this bus. You're in the middle aisle, you doing what you want to do, you're acting a fool, you throwing stuff out the window. Cool. Well, I'm like, all right, bring your 6 foot, 300-pound self up here, and you're gonna sit in this newly assigned seat, the rest of the year. Also, it's gonna be right on top of the wheel well, just so you're uncomfortable, just enough. And of course, we're gonna have some friends join you because you guys want to act a fool on my bus, Fred. Put three of y'all in the same seat, and that's y'all assigned seat for the rest of the year. The point is that I'm gonna get peer pressure. I'm gonna get your newly found discomfort to distract you long enough to get you home. I learned a lot of things about just how the human mind reacts to discomfort driving a school bus. It's been interesting. I'm not going to say I missed that job in terms of dealing with personalities and dealing with the foolishness that comes with being a school bus driver, but it was interesting. I learned a lot in terms of human nature, dealing with children and the different age groups, and very intelligent at such a young age, so moldable, just they're intrigued. I would stand up and stand in the middle aisle and y'all sit down. You just see how they react to a man's voice versus a woman's voice versus, people in authority over them. It's interesting. But yeah, out of all my jobs that I've had probably post high school, definitely being a school bus driver was the most interesting. I'd do it again, probably. I'd do it again. The only reason I left was because a lot of people that I was working with, they were maybe 20 years my elder. I noticed that I was out of place in terms of the age group that was driving school bus, the reasoning for driving school bus. Even at McDonald's, I noticed that my mindset was different. You would notice in certain environments you don't belong there. Typically, there'll be a problem that you're supposed to solve in your proper environment, the appropriate place for you to be in. There will be provision and a problem for you to solve. You would notice that your expertise is required in a certain place. That's why you go to certain stores for certain problems. You'll notice you're out of place when there's no provision and there's no problem for only you to solve. You'll notice you're out of place. Something to think about. Yeah, I noticed that even when I was working for myself, working 3 hours a week, playing keys at church, playing piano, I still noticed I was out of place. Not in terms of church, but in terms of, can I achieve my end goal, my life goal with what I'm doing now? Because I was comfortable. Trust me, I was comfortable. It was, I wouldn't even call it a job because I was going to church anyway. I was playing keys anyway. The only difference was I was getting a check now. And I noticed my ambition cannot support, what I'm doing now could not support my ambition. I could not achieve what I wanted from what I was currently doing. I had to make a change, and that's why the Air Force was always in the back of my mind, like, you want to do something bigger, the things you want, you can't access now. I couldn't take a vacation. If I had a flat tire, didn't have the money to fix it. I was donating plasma and donating blood, struggling to pay rent, saving pennies up, and it was a mess. The only thing I could afford was gas, which was barely, because I was always on E. A gym membership that was $5 a month at the local rec center. Donating plasma just for gas money and whatnot. And groceries. Just eating junk food throughout the week, and Netflix, of course. Of course, we find money for things we like, things we want. So once I realized that, if I want better, if I want options, if I want to take a vacation that I initiate, not my friends, not, being a tag along, a third wheel, fifth wheel, tagging along with other people's families as they go on family vacations, and I get invited on the back end. Oh, Isaiah, you want to come with us here for Christmas vacation? Oh yeah, I'll go. And I'll bring my little $20 with me. Broke as hell. No. There'll come a time where you just realize that Your ambition is not supported with what you're currently doing. Even in the military, sometimes I notice that I'm progressing. I can somewhat achieve what I want where I'm currently at. The Air Force does map to my end goal, however indirectly. But I still at certain times I notice that you're at a place, even while in turbulent, training environments, or learning a new job, a new task, new unit, new location, you will still notice that this is too easy for you. You know, you can do more. You can do more. That's why I do YouTube, I do podcasting and what have you, and I try to help other people. But at the same time, I know what I'm capable of, more or less, because I don't think you truly know what you're capable of until you're forced to perform without the chance to prepare for it. There'll be some times where you have no choice. You get thrown in the water. You don't know if you can swim or not. Well, we better figure it out. We better test it. Get thrown in the water, swim or drown. That's it. There are some environments that don't allow you to test that ability. A lot of people call swimming as a sport. I call it an ability, because most sports, if you can't play that sport, you don't die. But in swimming, if you can't swim, you die. That, I don't know. That's my logic, but it's not a deep video. It's not a deep video. If you guys have questions, I'm not going to dig all the way through the chat for time purposes. But yeah, if you have a super chat you want to drop off, say it was good. But yeah, I have an interesting history of jobs. It's not that deep. McDonald's, Papa John's, Olive Garden, Walmart. Walmart was an interesting job. Hated that job with all my heart. With all my heart, mind, and soul, I hated working at Walmart. I was a cart pusher. Nothing screams living below your potential like doing the job of a robot. Of you see those robot machines that you tend to put behind like 30 carts or so. A job that a donkey could do. Your job, when you wake up, you spend 8 hours plus pushing carts, corralling carts back into a store for 8 hours. That was a job right before I started working for myself. Hated that job. Couldn't listen to music. I definitely tried to, trying to stick my headphones in and what have you. No flexibility in schedule, and the ability to go to appointments, or no, all manner of weather. I don't know, but it was stable. It was stable. It was guaranteed hours. Walmart's always open, guaranteed hours. That's what that job allowed me to get my first apartment. That's why I knew it was necessary. Even though I hated that job, I knew that job was necessary, so I get my apartment. That was my first job that allowed me to, kind of get on my feet as an adult. Because obviously, as a man maturing, nothing screams little boy, child, like a man who's out of high school, who lives with his parents, godparents, grandmother, even to some extents, roommates. In the military, there will be some cases where you're forced to have a roommate, just due to the nature of where you're at, what you're doing in life, where what phase of your career you're in. But when you have the option, provided you have the money, of course, nothing screams, immature, like, live with your parents. And of course, I was in that phase of my life where I was chasing. My main priority was the female. You know, when I moved down from New York to Tennessee, I came with a suitcase. That was it. No car, no apartment, no money, a couple suitcases, and a job. That was it. Hope. I had hope. And a lot of things start falling through. And I noticed the real world is not going to give you, a grace period to warm up to reality. You know, gives you a quick wake up call and realizing we don't owe you understanding. We don't owe you, a free pass. We don't care about your background. If you want this apartment, you owe this much a month. You want this car, we need insurance. We need the car note, or we're gonna pay cash up front. Gas, upkeep, maintenance, tires need to be rotated. You need alignments at some point, oil change, all these different things. Fluid flushes, transmission fluid, what have you, all that. And then when you actually move to the apartment, you got to furnish the thing. You got to have food, and get the lights on in your name, and get the water on in your name. Buy your own washer and dryer. You start noticing that this world is expensive. And so when I thought about what I actually wanted and the level, the quality of life I wanted, I'm like, this costs money, bro. This costs money. And that's what kind of forced me towards a path of just constantly improving something. Something had to be better the next year. I couldn't keep going another 365 days. I'm like, I'm still at the same job, bro. Same thing applies to like the Air Force. There's a timeline of success that is subjective in nature. I was one of those people who got, and still has to his name, the only coins I have are the ones I got from basic training. The graduation coin and honor grad. That's it. I've never been coined, by colonel or commander, what have you. Nope. No chief coins or anything like that. I don't get airman of the quarter, airman of the year, nothing like that. But yet I promote every year. That was my goal. I want the objective measurements that measure your success in the Air Force. Because there's nothing worse, than having, your desk covered in paper of these awards that people printed off for you. And they say, oh, you're the airman of the year. Cool. Now what? There's no monetary value to that. There's certain objective measurements that the Air Force measures, and that, those who are in the military, you notice that promotion is the goal. It's nice to have all the other things for your EPR and to show that you're on paper a quality, well-rounded, full, whatever the concept is, well-rounded airman. Cool. But are you promoting? Again, if you think about it, promotion in the Air Force it's not even that huge of a feat. If you think about what you're actually getting in return, all you're getting is more responsibility with small incremental upgrades and pay. It's not a lot. But here's the thing I constantly remind myself of, is that if I'm going to be in this environment, if I'm going to be in the Air Force, at least meet the basic requirements of promotion. If you're going to be in here, why not promote? Promotion requires little to no effort in terms of going above and beyond. You don't have to do that. BTZ, I studied one weekend, read through a couple books, watched the Daily Show for current events, and showed up and talked to the chiefs, the panel of chiefs, the same way I'm talking to you right now. Confidently, sitting up straight, sitting at attention. I had some preparation, but for the most part, I was just being myself, confident and prepared. And then it was the rest of it was left up to perception, how I was perceived in that 5 to 7 minutes. And then from there, studying for staff. 1 hour a day of studying. That's it. 1 hour a day of studying the way I retain information. And then again, let the results speak for themselves. But yeah, it's just something to keep back in my mind is that no matter what I'm doing, no matter if I'm at McDonald's or Papa John's, whatever, meet the basic minimum requirements for progression. That's all I want as a person, is to continue to progress where I know I should be progressing, where there's an option to progress. If there's an option to progress, why not? Why are you not progressing if there's an option to progress? Have you even considered what the requirements are to progress? It's usually not a lot. It's usually not a lot. But yeah, just want to share that quick little, more or less a story time of just, there's a lot of talk of what we call the American dream. I absolutely hate the concept. I absolutely hate it because we all lie to ourselves if you think about it. Because again, I love to observe people's actions versus listening to the words. If you think about what we all do in our free time for the most part, we all resort to nature and comfort for what we call vacation. Why is the question? Where do you go for a vacation? It's a question for you to answer rather. Where do we go on vacation? Typically, you'll find people at beaches, resorts, destination cities. What's the common, lining between all these different things? Most of it it's simplicity. It's simple. It's having your time, exploration, seeing something new. A vacation in Florida is so cheap. Why? Because the activities you're doing cost next to nothing. Most people just want to see something that is not normal to their everyday life, to their normal schedule. People are bored. That's what it comes down to. Like your everyday life, most people are just, they're tired of the normal everyday, wake up, take the kids to school, wake up, go to the gym, go to work, work 8, 10, 12 hours, get off work, eat some junk food, go to sleep, watch Netflix, repeat. That's most people's life. And you ask them, what's the last exciting thing you did? And they'll tell you, well, last year I went to this country. No, what's the last exciting thing you did this week? Today. People love to say constantly, I'm spontaneous. I love to try new things and try new foods and try new restaurants. Cool. What's the last thing you tried that was completely new to you today? Yesterday? This weekend? This week? Most people's answer will be dry, dusty, nothing. Zilch. Why is that? I don't know. People ask me constantly, how much do you travel in the Air Force? How do you get to certain destination, bases in the Air Force? Here's what I know about humans. Here's what I know about most people, most recruits. If you're not traveling now as a civilian, you're probably not going to travel in the military. If you don't go on road trips as a civilian, you're probably not going to do it in the military. You might. You could change. You might be just waiting on resources. Might be waiting on having paid leave. That option doesn't exist in a lot of areas in the civilian world. But a lot of people come to the Air Force and they think that everything's going to change the second you put the uniform on, and your whole life is going to turn upside down. You're going to be this adventurous, spontaneous, full of energy person. And in most cases, it's not. The most freedom you're going to have is when you're civilian. I was checking the prices when COVID first kicked off. $30 tickets. I would have risked it. I would have been on a plane somewhere. Just couldn't. Military said you couldn't. Travel restriction. Stay put. I'm not advising anybody to go travel, now or back then, what have you. The point being is that a lot of people are expecting the Air Force to solve all your problems, and it's not going to. If anything, it's going to add to your plate. Let's look at these comments. I'm about to log off. I am exhausted. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, throw it in the super chat, so you can stand out, and I'll definitely answer it. So yeah, I hope you guys doing well. Week's halfway over. I'll be at Allison tomorrow doing some training with FMA. Yeah, I'll be on Allison, so it'll be fun. It'll be fun. I enjoy the morning rides in the morning to Allison, and enjoy the nature, the views, and what have you. Yeah, progression. You should be progressing no matter where you work. Even at McDonald's, that there's lessons to be learned there. There's opportunities there. I met a lot of people, a lot of good friends working at McDonald's. It's not the most prestigious. A lot of people look down on fast food, but it paid my bills at the time. It taught me how to save. My first car, I was able to pay cash for a lot of different things in my life. That being able to get my first apartment, and it taught me work ethic. Resiliency. It's not easy working fries during lunch hour. Trust me, you'd be over there sweating. Nasty. You'll notice, a lot of people around you don't have the same work ethic as you. Once they get to the Air Force, you'll notice who got it out the mud. People that came to the Air Force expecting to just be handed stuff. The entitlement starts leaking. They came for the free education, but they didn't know they had to actually work for the 4 years. People come in and they think, I'm going to do 4 years, and they skip all those thousands and millions of steps in between, their enlistment date and their date of separation. That's actual work in between there. That's a lot of work in between there. A lot of options. You must maintain those options. A couple of mistakes, you remove options. Just be aware of these type of things. I got one question. I'll tackle it now. I saw it in my DMs on IG. Go ahead and look at that real quick. I have a lot of. So by the way, I'm trying to catch up on these messages. I have a lot of questions that have been submitted. So I tend to see the latest ones as they come in, but I try to answer them as first come in, first in, first out, which is also something I learned from McDonald's, ironically. Let's see. Let's go for this one. I really need your help on passing the ASVAB. I took the ASVAB and failed 3 times. Is there any website or study materials you know that will help me pass the ASVAB? I really want to join the Air Force, but I always score 28 anytime I go to MEPS. All right, check this out. I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name. Otherwise, I would acknowledge you as such. Check this out. And yeah, we're coming up 40 minutes, so I'm about to end after this. First of all, you need to ask yourself and be honest. How long are you actually studying? Because the 28 is typically what you deserve in relation to your study habits. First things first. If you're actually truly honest with yourself, if you're truly critical, and you look back and you ask yourself, how many minutes did I study per day? You know, there's that answer. And then there's the truth. You know, moving on from that, let's say you're actually putting the time in, the minutes, the hours of consistent, non-distracted, effort into studying. Cool. There will always be results from the test. So let's say you got 28. You know what you failed, I guess, the most in relation to other categories. You may need a tutor. Something another YouTuber I follow, he mentions a lot. And it's about investing into yourself. He always alludes to personal trainers or, therapists, what have you, professionals, people in their career field they've excelled in one area. You may need a tutor. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of people have been out of school for years, and you go back and start doing long division. I forgot, how to multiply fractions. I forgot. This is a great opportunity to show your resourcefulness. Someone who goes to MEPS and consistently gets a 28, that should say a lot about you. It does say a lot about you. Think about how hard it will be to get the same exact score. I would assume there's some variance in your scoring, but I mean, based off this is what you said. I really want to join the Air Force, but I always score 28. I don't know. Start with the basics. ASVAB for dummies. Start with the basics. I actually didn't study using the ASVAB for Dummies book. I used it for about a week or so, but I took the practice test. And the practice test showed me where I was. It was a self-assessment. It was like, all right, you suck at math. You can deal with all the logic and all the rest of it in terms of, deductive reasoning. I'm great at that. That's easy for me. 0 effort required. English, writing, easy. But my math is trash. And so I literally had to go on YouTube and watch math games and watch math instruction on 3rd grade algebra and just multiplying fractions, long division, long addition. I had to start over. But I had to put the time in. At the time, I was working for the company in Nashville, driving charter buses, school buses. I had my iPad with me, and I was just playing math games. Downloaded apps of just math games of how to do basic math. That's all I studied. You may need a tutor. But yeah, your message is alarming mainly because you said you always get a 28. You consistently get a 28. I don't want to assume that you're not studying, but that sounds very difficult to do. How do you consistently get 28? It's beside the point. Get a tutor. During quarantine, a lot of people are just sitting at home. A lot of people are sitting around, teleworking. They have extra time on their hands. Find someone. Fiverr has a lot of different resources. YouTube is a free resource that has plenty of just everything. Someone's teaching something somewhere, and it's possibly free. In the age of the internet, most information is free. This information is free. You have questions. Well, now you need to, whittle those questions down into specific quality questions that you can pinpoint. So when someone has an answer, they know that they're assigned to you, to properly assist. That's my advice. Start over. You've been in charge of this process so far. You failed. It's time to start over from scratch. Whatever you thought was the right way of doing it, it didn't work. Now it's time to include someone else. You need some mentorship. Someone to help guide you. That's not going to be a recruiter. Don't ask your recruiter for help. That's not their job. Get the ASVAB book. You need to invest some time and some money into the process, because this is what you want. Super chat. Do you mind sharing what job you do in the Air Force today and how it could translate to civilian life or life outside the Air Force? My FSC is 6F051. I am finance. The most hated AFSC in the Air Force. Finance. I work currently in the resource advisor position. It falls under budget, but it translates directly probably into an analyst position in the Air Force. But it's probably, honestly, the budget section of finance is probably the only area that would probably translate to a civilian position. Obviously, it would translate into a position working for the Air Force in a civilian position, GS position. But there are a lot of different programs that would allow you to work for outside companies that are not, military related, mainly because of your resume, like the information that would follow a title. If you said I was a budget analyst, for the Air Force, what have you, and then the actual duties that you had typically align with something, equivalent in the civilian world. I've heard from the horse's mouth. There's a captain I knew that worked. He was active duty Air Force. He was my flight commander, but also went and worked with Apple and Microsoft. One of those, I believe it was Microsoft. But there was another staff sergeant that he knew that worked for Apple. It was a program through the Air Force while active duty, but they were able to partner and work, with, these Fortune 500 companies, through a special program. These opportunities are available every single day. Of course, it's not available to everyone. But yeah, that's my job. Most jobs, if you think about it, because a lot of people get this kind of twisted in their head. If you think about what the military is, we need a lot of the same things that exist in the civilian world. We're just in a uniform, but we still have the same needs. Once you join the military, you still need someone to cook for you at some point. We have hotels on base. At some point we're gonna have to ship something from one place to another, so we're gonna need LRS to assist. We're gonna need a hospital, so we're gonna have medical jobs and what have you. At some point something's gonna catch on fire. Someone's gonna drive too fast. That they're gonna need help. Assist them with a ticket so they know not to do that again. So yeah, a lot of the same jobs that you witness in the civilian world, a lot of those same things exist in the military, because that problem is just universal in nature. But then you'll have some jobs, like, let's say, a load master, which I would imagine somewhat translates, but maybe not apples to apples. You have some jobs that, a fighter pilot, you probably won't find that in the civilian world, but you will find a pilot, in the civilian world. So just keep those type of things in mind. Like when you're going through your list of jobs and you're trying to, do research on each individual job that you might want to, pursue. Just keep that in mind, that some jobs are just universal. that, you may not find a personnelist position in the civilian world, but, social workers, or, those who work, for federal government, or, work in HR, they're similar. They're similar, and those tasks that you learn in the military will one day assist you, when you move on. So something about 50 minutes. I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed. Shout out to y'all for watching. If you have any questions, you know what to do. I'm working through my DMs, working to catch up on these. But yeah, during these broadcasts, if you have a question that you definitely want answered, you want my attention, super chat your boy, and I got you. We'll chat. I do regularly, every now and then, I will, FaceTime someone if they have like a long extended question, something that's too, I ain't gonna lie. Like if I'm too lazy to write out my answer, we'll schedule a chat. We'll talk. I'm not above, chatting with people. I was once that same person that had questions that I wanted insight. So that's available from time to time. So y'all have a good night. I'm going to bed. I will see y'all next video.